Artsy House.
Welcome, Peter. It's great inviting you here. It's my pleasure for this wonderful podcast on power dynamics. And we keep conducting interviews with the legends and those who are having good experience regionally, globally, and in their domain. And probably this intention is very clear to convey the message on a story format, real-time story format, to the younger generation, and to educate in a competitive world. So I want to get your background, like maybe would like to tell something about yourself, because I understand that you worked in Canada as well as in the Middle East more than 40 years altogether, and nearly 17 years in the Middle East, including Oman, Qatar, and UAE. So probably you might be handle different set of people, different culture, and different hierarchies. And I understand that you work with the ministers and the royal families as well. So would you like to give a quick background about yourself, please?
Sure. Dr. Ram, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really grateful to be here and given a chance to talk about something I hadn't actually really thought about until you invited me. But there was actually a fair number of incidents and events and experiences that I had in relation to power dynamics that I hope I can share a few of those that might be meaningful to the younger people that are just entering the workforce. But before I start a little bit about myself, I just want to say that many of the lessons that I learned are from young people. It started with my children. They taught me from the word go. So I actually use a lot of, it's a two-way street when it comes to this. So my background, I'm born in Canada. I have 2 degrees, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, both in the natural sciences. I could say that ecology. It was nature conservation that oriented me. And I was very fortunate to be working for consultants from the word go. And immediately I was working for consultants in that field. And by the time I'd finished my master's, I had a strong resume in terms of experience. I had a big network of people in the federal government in Canada, provincial government in Canada, and private consultants. So when I actually went to go seek work full time, I very quickly found work. So for me, the first lesson I got in terms of just entering the workforce was I had a good academic background. I had done some unique work in my master's degree, which was up in the subarctic of Canada. So I had academic, I had good work experience, and I had a strong network of people that would support me and that could employ me potentially. So when I finished, I was highly employable. I didn't actually have a plan in this regard. It's just the way things worked out. And I was following really my passion. And this is the second thing for me. What matters to me is what I followed. And what mattered to me always was about nature, about conserving it, about understanding it better. And this has been my guide the entire time, both in Canada and in the Middle East and the Gulf when I moved to this part of the world. It was always focused on those targets. The people that were involved or that I was involved with were people that could either hinder or help. But I always kept my eye on the ball, on the target, which was about nature.
Wonderful. So amazing. It's so interesting. And probably you moved to Middle East. So which was the first country you have you started working? I understand that it might be Qatar or Oman, maybe?
Oman.
Oman, okay. So how did you adapt the cultural the changes? Because Canadian culture might be extremely different than the Middle East. So it might be a bit more initially all good, but maybe the intentions are good, but like the communication style might be different, or the way so how did you handle it the first time when you entered to Middle East?
Yeah, okay. That's a really good question because it is very different, actually, the two countries. In Canada, if you want to have a meeting with, let's say, a director general, so a senior official in a particular ministry, you might have to request the appointment and wait for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, maybe 6 weeks before you get a chance to see them. And maybe that meeting would last 10 minutes. And when you walk in the door, immediately you're talking about the topic. That's it. You don't even say hello. In the Middle East and the Gulf, when I first had my first meeting in Oman, I went to the Supreme Committee of Town Planning. That was my first meeting. There was with the Director General. And he sat and he stared at me. He was like 2 feet from me. and he stared deeply into my eyes. He didn't ask anything about my background. He just wanted to know if he liked me, if he could trust me, who I was as a person. I felt like he was peering deeply into my soul. It was really a very different experience, very intense. And as I went to other ministries in Oman, it was very similar, often much friendlier, but they wanted to get to know me as a person first and get to know about my family, about my intentions, to get a sense of who I am as a person. Sometimes I would have a meeting that would last for an hour and a half, and we never talked about business, not on the first one. They wanted to know me first. And I actually liked that. It took me a while to get used to that approach, but I understood how important relationships are in Oman, and that's the same in Doha and Qatar when I worked there, and here in Dubai as well. In Canada was slightly different. It was much more focused on your understanding, your technical abilities, your technical competencies. This is what matters the most, and how effectively and efficiently you can convert that technical knowledge into, let's say, policies and the guidelines or into some kind of action. In Oman and in the Middle East, generally speaking, it's much more related to how much they like you and relate to you, and can how you can convey to them the vision that you have and find that shared vision, because you have to find the vision of the managers here, the people that are decision makers. And once you can find what really drives them, then you have a full suite of tools available to you. Charm, even personal suitability, even gifts, like just small gifts, just small gestures. They make a big difference here in terms of just how receptive people are to your ideas.
Yeah, you rightly said you come with the culture where the domain skills are much appreciated, the competency is much appreciated than the relationship. Obviously, people connected with the good intentions, but when you come to Middle East, probably yeah, the technical skills are, without the technical skill, you are not part of the team. So by default, they understand that. But beyond that, the one-to-one relationship is more important here, and so now the challenging question is, like, you've been completely groomed, like maybe 20, 22 years in Canada, you're completely groomed into a highly skilled, profile, like highly competent, technical skilled person. So when you come to Middle East, so always you try to showcase your technical skills. Probably, is it okay in one-to-one discussion? Maybe people able to understand that, but on a group level discussions, maybe on the executive committee meeting or a board meeting or something similar to that kind of a, like more than five people in the room, like when you are discussing a key project or something, strategic decisions. So how do you feel about how did you feel the environment, because you're so deep onto technical skills, you're going to talk about the core competency of your complete profile. This is the best thing to do that, maybe to protect the environment. That's how you're master into it. And the other side of the people, maybe five to six people, yes, equally recognizing that kind of a profile, but the way you project is been recognized uh, or sometimes misunderstood because of the cultural difference. Did you feel any such incidents?
There were actually lots of opportunities for me to learn the right approach when I moved to the Gulf, to the Middle East. The first thing I realized was very important to listen, very important to be patient. There was a lot of sort of immediate issues that were always had to be dealt with, a lot of fires, whether it came from, let's say, transportation ministry or from engineering ministry or some other ministry. So I would just be patient and just wait, and I would listen. I would, at that time, as they're speaking, because there is a hierarchy. If you're the new person, they might be curious about you at first, but then you know that you're just sitting in the back, mostly not getting a chance to speak. And I understood that almost right away. And I was fine with that because I wanted to get to learn the lay of the land. It provided me with a great opportunity to see how they thought, what was a priority, and what their needs were. Environment touches every single ministry, every single domain has an environmental element to it. And because of my background being extremely varied, I did field biology for 10 years in Canada with the Wildlife Service. So I was very familiar with environment, with nature. I worked in policy, I worked in regulations in different ministries. I worked very directly with developments for similar to what we were doing, which is a brand new city from scratch. So I was familiar with what the challenges could be, not specifically, but generally speaking. And I knew the different ways that I'd be able to help. And so I would just listen. I would, my job was to support, to provide guidance. And so that's what I was doing. I wasn't imposing. I wasn't trying to show superiority. I would often ask questions or offer advice in the form of questions. What do you think if? How about if we did this instead? Perhaps an option could be this. So I wouldn't be trying to force my technical knowledge. I was just posing questions that I felt might be helpful.
Okay.
That was the approach that I took.
So now it's very clear. So you understand the ecosystem in the room, who are all sitting, for the discussions. And one point of time, you try to explain on a very detailed manner, and probably the superiors, sometimes ministers or under secretaries, or maybe the junior ministers, somebody could able to be a part of this team, and they are the person. They might be taking the decision on the spot. So, did you come across any situations where you try to explain in a way they could able to understand, but it backfired you because of maybe some misunderstanding or something like, or the intentions are different, maybe So, is it anything you felt? It is not just a cultural thing. It is not just a communication error, but maybe some hierarchical, some situation where probably uh, your voice is not recognized. Simple, straightforward, power game. So maybe Middle East or maybe from Canada, did you feel any such incidents? And
Yes.
what might be the one take home you want to convey to the younger generation from this situation?
There's plenty.
Okay.
And there's plenty of examples where I didn't handle it very well at all.
Hmm.
One example would be when I was again in Oman. There was a discussion about a topic that I had the expertise in. I think it had something to do with waste management, but I can't recall specifically if that's what the topic was. And so everybody was offering their opinions and views, and I intervened at one point and said, "Well, I just want to reframe this a little bit so you understand it from the proper perspective in terms of waste management." And so I explained it, and I thought everybody understood, but people were competing for attention. People wanted to be the winners. People wanted to be the ones that had the right answer. So they weren't really listening. And these are senior people, well above me. And the minister at the end, it was now the minister, but the undersecretary at the time, was trying to follow this conversation because everybody was competing for his favor. And then it came back to me from a member of the royal family. We don't get it. We just don't understand it. And for me, it's very simple. I didn't recognize that they weren't listening well enough. And so I lost my patience. And I went up and I stood very aggressively by the minister and I explained with my finger, it's like this, like this, like this. And everybody was shocked. And I was too. I couldn't believe that I did that. And I sat back down. And what saved me, I believe, because they didn't fire me and they didn't, throw me in jail, because it was pretty inappropriate what I did. What they recognized is the way I was over the period of months preceding that incident. So they knew that I had passion. They knew that I cared. They knew that I wanted to do the right thing. And I was doing my best to help them. And this is what really caused them to forgive my outburst. So the lesson for me and for others is really work on the relationships, really build the trust, have them people care about you, and if you listen well, others will start to respect you, especially if you don't try and force your opinion. You become a source that people want to go to for ideas and thoughts. So this to me, play the long game. Be there. You don't have to be a flash. You don't have to show up on the first day, on the second day, and make an impact. Build it gradually over time. Get people to know you, to trust you, to like you. At the same time, not everybody has to like you. You don't have to worry about that. I didn't. I didn't worry who liked me and who didn't. But just from my personality, I was able to achieve a very good kind of relationship with most people. And so when you get to the point when you get into one of these conflicts, people are much more willing to forgive you, and at the same time you can learn a lot about yourself. So this is what I really suggest for people.
Great. I mean, so we always come with a good intention, but the way sometimes we present on a, like not awkward, but like not appropriate to that particular situation, understanding different hierarchies and, there's a respect and cultural, uh, you know, um, um, try to understand the culture in a very detailed way so that we could able to balance our communication to the right person, maybe on that room. Um, so going one step further about your passion, I understand that you are amazingly uh, well connected to the painting and to the nature, right? So couple of times when we discuss, I understand that whenever you paint something, you rarely paint, but when you paint, uh, you could able to see similar images uh, on the real time somewhere, within a couple of days earlier or coming 2 days, like there is a connection between the
Mm.
real time situation and your painting. So would you like to give a small uh, I mean, just share your experience on that, please.
Sure. Actually, I paint a lot.
Okay.
This is a very interesting question. It's a very different kind of question that I was expecting, but we've had these conversations, a few of them. So I started to paint when I moved to Oman. I had no notion of painting before that, but the feeling hit almost right away. And it comes down to feeling. It didn't come down to having gone to art school. I never went to art school. I did try and take a few courses, but that didn't work out too well for me because I didn't like to be in the boxes. I needed freedom. So I've probably right now got maybe 450 paintings in my home right now,
Wow.
stacked against each other. I paint when I feel like it, and the source of inspiration for those feelings, which can arrive at any point, it could be in the middle of the night, and sometimes I have to get out of bed and start painting. I paint horizontally. I allow my energy to go into the medium. So the media, which is usually water or water-based media, but now it's very mixed, but initially it was water. I know and I learned afterwards that the molecular structure of water is affected by your emotions, by a person's emotions. And so whatever I was feeling would somehow show up, even though I didn't have any plan at all in terms of what I was painting. I would go the next day and see what patterns had emerged once the painting had dried. Maybe when I woke up, it dried overnight. I would see things that were happening on a different part of the planet at the same time. And I got proof of this.
Mhm.
And I got the same kind of things. I would paint something, and multiple events would happen after that painting was done. Over the space of maybe 6, 8, 9 months, I could see that in my painting as well. So it's been really a magical experience for me. This whole move to this part of the world has been
Yeah.
fantastic for me. It took me out of the box in terms of how to function in a work environment into a different kind of work environment, but it took me in a completely different environment entirely. And it's been wonderful, really.
So coming back to the same power issues, so usually a highly technical person, highly competent person who is like the domain expert, always stand out of the crowd. I don't know, somehow he's been it's a fate actually. I mean, like
Mm.
that's how the people cannot gel with the the crowd. Maybe competency clashes. So did you feel anything like maybe your friends are telling like you always stand out, we could able to see you different, so in terms of sharing your opinions and sharing your knowledges, or maybe in terms of uh, connecting with the other people, maybe the way you do it might be a bit of different. So did you heard anything about it like that?
Not in terms of my technical competency, because normally when it comes to that, I don't push it very hard. As I mentioned earlier, I usually put it in the form of questions or ideas for other people to think about. Because maybe about 10 years into my career, so about 30 years ago, I went to meetings and I realized when I was saying something, and there might be 30 other people in the room, I would get one chance to say something, but it was a chaotic conversation. Nobody could figure out what was going on. I would say one thing, and people go, "Oh, yeah, okay." And they would carry on in that direction. And the result was very good. Not always, but it was sometimes outstanding. Everybody would forget I was the one
Hmm.
that steered it in the right track. That's when I started to realize that what was going on was I was just slightly ahead of everybody's thoughts. I was able to figure out what they were thinking, where they were heading. I would present it to them like a light in a way and say, head in this direction. And they would head in that direction, completely forgetting that my contribution. It used to annoy me at first, and then I got used to it, and then I understood what was going on. And so I don't really push my competency directly, typically, in terms of my knowledge. What people said to me in terms of standing out, because I have been told this many times, even maybe when I met you, you mentioned something about this, and I've heard this many times, and it's difficult for people to put into words what it is, but there's a certain kind of presence that people have, and I was very fortunate to have friends like this as well. And one in particular told me, he said, Peter, you're the type of person that doesn't really need to say anything. Just your presence alone can help. And that's really humbling. And you don't know how to respond to something like that because people are used to being doers. In order to succeed in life, you have to do this, then that, then this, then that. And this is very important. But presence, being, this is even more important. The energy that you project, the types of energy that you draw back into you, the types of people that you attract, being a magnet in a certain way. And if you're, let's say, existing on a certain frequency, let's say if you have a particular kind of vibe, let's say, then if you can move into an office environment, and this is what I found, you don't have to necessarily do anything to have an impact. So you don't have to be the person that sticks their hand up all the time. You don't have to be the person, and that could be the youngest child in the family, because I equate a lot of office environment situations to what it's like growing up with, siblings. You have to find your niche and to find a way to compete. So when I was younger, I didn't really work that hard. I was the youngest of four boys, and then there was my sister who was younger than me. My sister automatically got the attention because she was a girl. I just would sit there and be because I didn't feel like competing for attention from my parents. So I learned to become very independent very quickly. And this has really helped me a lot in the work environment as well.
So this kind of a nature, like the independence you said, so that sometime like it is considered as positive, but most of the time it is considered as negative side because somebody is independent. It looks like highly egoistic, arrogant. I mean, though they cannot read your mind, but still they misunderstand most of the time, and then the jealous, gossips, betrayal. So on this level, did you feel any such bad incidents during this 40 years of career?
Yes.
Did you feel anything where you want to be quite calm, technically savvy? I want to contribute. That's it. But I don't want to go and actively socially participate like others. But people misunderstood, and sometimes it backfires you. Is it something like? Did you feel any time like that?
Yes. I mean, I can think of, again, plenty of examples. One is a ministry that I used to work with in Canada. My boss, the chief of the section, was very good friends, I learned, with the director. They were good friends. They joined the ministry together. And then one of the senior advisors was also a very good friend. So these trio of ladies were like tight knit. I learned that they all started off as secretaries. They were in the typing pool. One became director, another one became chief, and the other one became like a senior advisor. And I thought, how is this possible? And I learned that what they did was they used charm. They didn't use competency to get those positions. They used to go for cigarettes and smokes with the deputy minister of the ministry. So they got to become very good friends with him, and they ended up with these very nice positions. No competency when it came to the technical fields. So I was given the responsibility to develop this policy for the ministry by the deputy minister. I had to do it. And I knew that within the time frame required, I couldn't engage them. They were just going to slow the process down, complicate the process. And like I said before, I prefer to focus on the end goal, what I'm supposed to achieve, and find the best way to get there. So essentially, I did it in spite of them. Not intentionally trying to negate them, but I didn't engage them and involve them in the success. And so that created a lot of resentment. I ended up creating a lot of problems for myself because I left them out of it. And again, my goal was just to get the project done. Their goal ultimately was, once that project was finished successfully, was find a way to find employment for me elsewhere. So That's just one example, but it's happened many times. So one of the lessons learned there is the need to at least make people feel part of the process. And I sometimes struggle with that. But if they don't feel a part of it, especially if they're your managers, especially if they're above you, or somebody that has some power, they don't necessarily have to be a manager, but they have a lot of influence because, again, they have their own technical competency. They speak really well. Maybe they speak Arabic and I don't. That gives that person an edge. Involve them and at least find a way to make it feel like a team achievement.
So rightly said, sometimes the boss may be having different domain expertise, so probably may not able to actively contribute the project which you are working on that, but sometimes we need to report to that boss, not that same domain. So actively there is no contribution from the boss side, but you are it's your project. But sometimes there is an ego clash because of the lack of communication. That put it on that way. You rightly said, maybe again sometimes the cultural difference add one more spoon of the differences. So in this case, will that be from a younger generation perspective, will that be okay, where we try to get some input so that the boss is feeling I've been recognized. Boss has to be like, sometime like feel like a boss. So you're giving a chance. I don't know this, can you please tell some, maybe something like how the other community people will be looking into it, but you're doing a project into certain area where you don't have that kind of understanding about that geological, that particular location, where you try to understand through the boss words, so he get like, oh yeah, he's asking me a question, so he want to understand through my perspective, so he feel a bit proud on that. So will that be really helpful, or you just do by yourself, let him understand by himself, you are the best person? So probably this communication, or connectivity issues, how to handle it, maybe from your perspective.
Person has to be very conscious. I really like the way you frame this question because it's so true. It's that balance between getting the job done and also realizing that you're part of a team and that you have somebody that's the leader of that team. It's like playing sports. Everybody has to know what their role is. Everybody has to feel like they've contributed to team success. And also, your bosses often know a lot more than you think they do. And so by asking them questions doesn't necessarily mean that you're exposing a weakness in yourself. You're actually providing an opportunity, and it's a really good opportunity for them to share some wisdom with you. And even nowadays, on projects that I'm working with, I have a conversation with my director or my immediate supervisor. They don't have the same level of expertise that I do, but they share things with me that are really helpful and things that I may not have appreciated maybe 10 years ago. And I thought, I wish I'd asked, I wish I had that conversation before, because I could have saved myself a lot of trouble. I could have made a much better product in the long run. So it's about respect to a large extent. You have to earn your respect of your managers. And the way you do that, or at least the way I was doing it, was to show them, look at what I've done by myself. Look what I did. Aren't I great? And they may not respond in the same way because it should be, look what we created and thank you for contributing, is what they're looking for. And it took me a while to learn this.
Good. So again, the curse of the technical person is like, he did everything, but sometimes the recognition is missing.
Hmm.
You done, like you rightly said, some of the time you have literally worked day in and like day out, like even it goes up to not only just few weeks, it might be months, and it goes such a long period. Sometimes you work alone because other team members may not able to add value to the project, or maybe sometime policy makings which you've done something like that, uh, where how to though you're focusing on the deliverables, high quality deliverables, yes, but the recognition is equally important. Sometimes we least bother about it because your main focus is delivering
Mm.
what has been told to you, right? So as a younger generation, how they could able to like um, make sure they're recognized as well, um, though they're delivering the best out of the best, because like you have a track record of 40 years, always the best, and Probably people got confused. There's a T junction, everyone got struck, but you take it right so that everyone follows you. It's very visible in your whole journey of the. So how do you ask them to focus on the recognition as well, recognition part, so that it goes hand in hand.
That's a really important question. I remember, and I had mentioned this a little bit earlier, that an idea during a meeting or in discussion, especially one of the chaotic kind of high tension ones, I would make a suggestion that would turn things around and end up with a good result. And nobody ever said thank you, Peter, or remembered that I was the one that did that.
Mm,
And like I said, that used to bother me. And then when I go back to my childhood, there are lots of incidents similar to that because I was competing with my brothers and sister in terms of getting attention from my parents. And I learned to realize that that kind of attention and recognition wasn't everything. It
mm,
was nice when you got it, but it didn't become an interest and a focus for me. When I was working in the federal government in Canada, I did notice people having plaques of recognition, award for this, award for that on their walls. And I thought, I wonder what they're doing because I don't have a single one.
mm.
And then there became that incident which I spoke to you about off camera earlier, where I was given a task to generate a new regulation to manage greenhouse gases,
Mhm.
a process that was highly political, highly technical, highly controversial, that would normally take a team of people maybe a year to develop. I was given 6 weeks and I to do most of the tasks for this regulation.
Wow.
I had two people working with me, so my secretary and one of the clerks in my section. That was it.
Mm,
And daily, 18 hours a day, I worked away at it. I worked hard 7 days a week. Nobody thought I would be able to do it. I was the fall guy,
mm.
and I did it. In 6 weeks' time, the regulation was passed. People were stunned that it actually happened. I got no thank yous, not a single thank you, no recognition at all. But I was half expecting this, to be honest, because people distanced themselves from what they saw as a failed thing.
Mhm.
It wasn't going to work. And when it worked, people were embarrassed. A lot of it comes down to ego. Their egos could not allow them to be able to say, Peter, that's amazing what you did. And I'm sorry I didn't help you or help you the way I could have because I thought you were going to fail and I didn't want to be part of that. They didn't say that, but I knew this. So then at that point, the big lesson for me was recognition is nice when it comes,
Mm.
but don't worry about it. It's knowing for yourself that you've done a good job. And this to me is, I think, one of the most important lessons I've learned, not needing external validation. If you can do it and have confidence in yourself, you can go so much further. You don't need somebody to give you a ribbon or a certificate, anything like this. It's knowing yourself that you've done something really meaningful. This is what I really ask everybody. If you can do anything, do it for yourself. Do the best job you can with the best intentions. Everything else will come.
This world is completely, this is a corporate jungle, right? You have a lot of foxes, lions, and maybe different set of
Snakes.
mindset snakes. So only one thing, right? You want to change in your personality. The 40 years journey could have been a little more different, could have been a little more easy for you.
Mm.
What is the one thing you would have been like expected? Maybe if somebody groomed you, like, or trained you, or got some alert, okay, I don't want to do this kind of a template pattern of, the behavioral activities. So one thing you want to change. So what the one thing you want to do, like, change? Maybe 40 years of this journey could be much easier.
Mm.
What did that been like?
I think probably even when I was a grad student being a TA, teacher assistant in grad school, I could never remember the names of any of the students in my class. When I was going to meetings, I could never remember the names of the people that I was being introduced to. And still to this day, I have this habit of not being able to remember. And this is really something I wish I was better at, which I've paid more attention to. Because if you want to influence people right away, if you want people to, have a good feeling about you from the very beginning, you need to remember their names. And I usually pay attention to what they do, what their interests are, but not the labels and things like this. So I wish I paid attention to those features. So when somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, Peter, how are you?" And this happens a lot, I just go, "Hey," because I can't remember their names. Sometimes I don't even remember them. But once I start talking, I remember what we talked about.
Yeah.
And so if I could orient myself a little bit to having that kind of ability, this would have helped me a lot. And the second thing, especially when I moved to this part of the world, I wish I had my son's abilities to learn other languages. I mean, he can pick up languages
Languages.
so fast. Me, I speak English
Hmm.
and just shway shway when it comes to Arabic.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
these are some things that would have been
Mm-hmm.
helpful for me if I'd done. And, when I think about my two very good friends from high school,
Yeah.
um, one of them really was very good when it came to science, logic. He was naturally this way. He's a professor of medicine now, just very, very naturally gifted this way. And he was very good and is very good about this kind of meeting people and remembering features about them. This I wish I had. But on the other side, my other friend, who's probably the smartest person I've ever met in my life, present company excluded, perhaps, uh, you had, actually with both of them, nobody had any idea just how brilliant they are and what they do for a living. One friend, for example, so very humble is what I'm trying to say. One person, my friend, he came to the wedding as my best man. He was sitting on the plane and he was sitting beside a biker, leather, the whole bit, Harley Davidson drive, that's his life. And when they got to the airport, he said, "By the way, I forgot to ask what you do." And he said, "Well, I'm a professor." And he would not believe him, would not believe him. He was being himself. He was not acting the part that his position told him he should be acting. And my other friend, the same thing. He's a doctor of laws and he's doing another degree as well. You would have no idea how brilliant his mind is from the behavior.
Interesting.
And this is something that I really appreciate.
Okay, last one question. So it's a power jungle, like power game, and we meet a lot of people. So, what is the one thing you want to tell to the younger generations? So they need to be a bit more cautious to handle different cultural people.
Yes. So before I moved to the Middle East, I started to read books. I said communication styles in the Middle East, in the Gulf, how you convey information, the importance of listening, the importance of protocols. Um, if I went to Asia, I know that the way you introduce and you take cards is different. Let's say for the Japanese, you pay a lot of attention to the cards. You read the details and you acknowledge their presence in a different way than you would, let's say, in this part of the world. So here, people hug me sometimes when they see me. I had to get used to that, and I prepared for that. And it's doing a little bit of preparation in advance from friends. I asked friends, Omani, Arabic friends in Canada, about these kind of protocols, and it was very helpful. And but you can only get so much from that kind of learning. Observing is so important. Watching, getting a sense of how people are, what they need. It's an ongoing process, and it's very natural and easy for me. And humor, no matter where you are,
Mhm.
works really well, but you have to be funny. If you're not funny, it's not going to work. Um,
Interesting. Mm.
the last thing I'd say for here is people are very generous
Yeah.
with gifts. So when I travel, I bring something, little things, and they do the same for me.
Mhm.
Very personal. If you can feel, and I do feel like it's a family
Mhm.
when I'm working here in Dubai. For the last 10 years, I feel like I'm in a family environment. All my
That's so
colleagues are this way.
nice.
It's really, really nice. In Canada,
Mhm.
people would say I never hang out with the people I work with. I refuse to because I just don't want to be associated.
And
They divide their lives this way, and
mhm.
and I never quite understood this. But here, it's not expected, but it's certainly
Very
wonderful
nice.
when that happens. So it's a great place to be.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I hope this knowledge, what you shared to the younger generation, will be amazing insight for those who are, climbing on the corporate ladder. And thank you so much and have a wonderful time. Thank you, Peter.
Dr. Ram, thank you very much. Really, I hope so. I'm happy to share more. I don't know if that I was able to contribute everything that I could have, but it's a long journey. It's a long journey. It's an individual journey. And don't forget who you are. This is, to me, the most important thing. Don't forget who you are and do what you care about. Do it to the best of your ability, and you'll grow as an individual, and others will notice you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Ram.